Hey, what's up? This is Dr. Lee. In this video, we're going to talk about when do you know it's time to stop a juice cleanse. So if you follow John Rose, and I highly recommend that you do, because he is the guru behind a solid food vacation and extended juice feasting. The man is absolutely brilliant. And he seems to have a scientific kind of reason when you stop the juice feast. I basically come up with three through working with people, three different reasons. It's less, a little bit less black and white, because I'll just tell you kind of what the reasons are, and then you can make your own decision when it's best time for you to stop. But it's not just a one thing for me. So with John Rose, it's whenever you stop having solid bowel movements. So, you're drinking juices, obviously you would expect juice to sort of come out. If you think about babies drink milk all the time. I have a 5-week-old at home right now, and the diaper changes, they're not solid poops in there. They're liquidy poops. Well, you'd expect, you drink juice, you're gonna have liquid coming out. If you're drinking juice without any fiber in it and you're having solids coming out, then that means that there is hard, thick waste that has been accumulated inside of your intestinal walls that is still in there, and it's coming out. And it will blow your mind when you go through and start doing an extended juice fast, that, come day 10, you're like, all right, I gotta be clean by now. Jeez, I can't believe how much stuff is coming out of me. And then you're still having it coming out. And then 14 days goes by, 2 weeks in, you're like, how? This is freaking crazy. And then 3 weeks goes by, and then a month, and you're still having stuff coming out of you. And then 2 months goes by. And then if you're like me, 3 months goes by, and then 4 months goes by, and you're like, what sort of a shit show am I here? This is absolute insanity to be having all of this stuff coming out. And according to John Rose, you go until you basically run dry, or you're just having the juice starting to come out. You're no longer having solid bowel movements. And that is going to be a very strong indicator. But what happens is you might go through periods where you just have, a lot of kind of loose, watery stools, that seem like, hey, this is just kind of a juice poop that's coming through. It's not solid. So you're like, hey, am I done? And I've had people, that I've been working with that are maybe, 2 weeks in, and they've had, they're 50 years old, they're standard American diet for years. I'm like, no, you're definitely not done. They're like, I think I'm done. I think I got all the toxicity out. And I was like, we're not even scratching the surface, man. We got a lot more to do here. And sure enough, it was just like a diarrhea day. And so you got to understand that there's going to be a certain amount of time that almost everybody is going to have a requisite amount of time. And so most people, if you're going to go the distance, as John Rose recommends, and I recommend, is you're going to look to around 90 days. Okay, so if you're clean, meaning that you've been maybe raw vegan for years and years before you do this, which I was not. And I'd say most people who I think really need this are not coming from that perspective. They're not coming from, already eating like a raw kind of a diet lifestyle. They're coming from, like me, I've done paleo, I was keto, I've been carnivore, like the complete opposites of what a juice fast is. It was hard for me to wrap my head around giving this a shot, and it totally changed my life. And so I'm excited to pass this information along to you. But having anything short of 90 days, if you've had any level of standard American diet in your life, you're kind of fooling yourself. Now, it doesn't mean that, if you don't have the fortitude to go longer than that, that's okay. That's you can, set a goal that you are confident that you can hit. But I really recommend, kind of keeping at least a mental number in your head of where you want to go. And for most people, I'd say it'd be a really, really cool thing. If you have belief in yourself, you have discipline, to at least mark out mentally that you're going to shoot for 90 days. Because you're just going to keep going. You're gonna keep, and you can do multiple of these, right? If you do 30 days and that's when you stop, I don't want to discourage you from doing it if you don't feel like you have the mental, bandwidth to pull that off. But whatever you set your mind to, do it. Like, pull it off, do it. You'll feel really good about yourself. So sometimes just putting a number to it like that is something that is good, right? So if you say, hey, I'm gonna do 30 days, do 30 days. Reassess at that point. Maybe you want to go longer, but at least do what you set your mind to. For me, I knew I could do 90 days. I was like, nothing's going to stop me from getting to 90 days. And I knew that that was something based on my past experiences in my life that I can do something for 90 days. Even if it's very uncomfortable and painful and super hard, which this is not. It's definitely challenging, but it was a hell of a lot easier than I expected it to be. And I find that for most people, like if you're drinking enough juices and you're not making mistakes, it's a lot easier than you think it would be. You think that you'd be a lot more challenging, and it's not. But when you are stopping the juice fast, or you're considering like when should I stop, at least hit that mental number. You're gonna feel so much better about yourself than setting a number that you're not gonna hit, and you'd be like, well, maybe I'll get there. No. So if you gotta set that number low for yourself, do it. And I know a lot of people who went 90 days whose initial goal was 30 days. I know a lot of people who went 60 days whose initial goal was 2 weeks. So whatever you set, make sure you're going to hit it, and then you'll probably want to keep going because you'll be so motivated by the stuff that's coming out of you still, like the solid matter that's coming out, that it will propel you forward. So that's something to keep in mind. So find that mental number for you that you can hit, and I want you to go after that number, and then reassess and consider going longer after that if you're still pooping solid. So the number of days in your mind, that's going to be one reason that you can end it, and that's how you can know to stop, because you reach that number for yourself. The other one is going full John Rose status. Basically, go until you stop having solid bowel movements, and that'll be like, to be sure, give it a week. Give it a week. It sounds maybe like a lot if you've never, a week by itself sounds like a lot, but once you've stopped having solid bowel movements, you'll want to be sure. So give yourself, a week after that to know that, hey, I've actually stopped having solid bowel movements and we're good. The other reason to stop is, this is usually when you've gone well over a month, probably over 2 months. This started hitting me because I was gearing up myself to be like, what, I may have to go, like, what if I have to go 180 days? Like, once I crossed 90 days and I was still having solid bowel movements, I was still having major detox stuff coming out of me, major detox reactions. I had to mentally prepare myself to go, maybe this is going to be like a freaking 180 day thing. Like, I didn't want it to be, but I had to be, I allowed myself to be open to that possibility because, again, like, I didn't see any signs that the road was stopping on the poop train was not stopping at 90 days for me. So I was like, what? Okay, let's do this. And I kind of like loosely was thinking 120 days, but I was starting to open up my mind to maybe it'll be 180 days, so that I don't get disappointed when I get to 120 days and I'm also not stopping. And for me, I wound up stopping at 130 days. Now, this is not something that everybody has to go this hardcore. They don't have to go this long. This is my journey that I'm sharing with you, because it's helpful, and that's really the best advice I can give you is from my experience. And what I found was I started getting these signs that the end was near. It's kind of hard to put into words. I started feeling just kind of at peace. I'm like, what? I'm proud of what I've done. I'm proud of how far I've taken this. If I'm not clear by 130 days, I'm just I may have to just stop this. And I was getting not stressful, like, oh my gosh, you're not following through. It was like very much at peace. Like, no, I'm going to be very proud of where I'm at. And you can watch one of my past videos when I was doing the juice fast and like what it was like when I decided to end it. And so what my thoughts were at that time, but it was very much a sense of peace, a sense of well-being, a sense of satisfaction, of where I'm at and how my body is at that point. My connection to myself, my connection to the universe, my connection to source energy, to all, basically all life on this planet. It just was like the connection was just getting really strong. And so the words that I'm hearing inside of my head didn't even sound like they were my own. It was like this higher version of myself that's over here like whispering, like my conscience, and really it's my intuition that's just started speaking louder and louder, and you got to listen to that. So spiritually, the signs were becoming very clear that it was that it was time to stop. And I found that was not unique to me. That experience is not unique to me. So if you've gone through a juice fast and you're watching this, or maybe you're about to do another one, I would like to hear your experiences on what that was like, and if you can relate to what I'm talking about, because you will find this peace that starts to take over, and it like whispers, kind of like, it's time. Like, it's time now. It's time to transition past this, because this is not a forever thing. And of course, you listening to this early on, of course it's not a forever thing, but it's funny when you start getting into it deeper and deeper, you start to lose the desire for food. The juices sustain you 100%, and you think, well, I could just continue living like this. And you'll find that time when it's not. So setting the number in your mind of how far you want to take this, that's going to be the first thing to know how long you're going to go. That number can change. The second thing is just going until you stop having bowel movements, solid bowel movements. And then the third is the spiritual signs that says, okay, you're done. And they may correlate. They may all three of those events might converge into one. But that is going to be, you're going to learn to trust yourself on this process. You're going to want other people's advice. I'm here to help people along. And it's very helpful to get that advice. But you're going to find that maybe some of the advice at some point down the road, like I give a lot of my clients, is, what do you think? Where do you feel? And getting them to articulate their own intuitive faculties of knowing when is the right time to stop. And it's just an amazing thing when people get that power back and they start to recognize that, wow, like I do know when. I don't need to have someone from the outside tell me, what to do and, demand that I do X, Y, or Z. Like, what's right, and you'll find that. And you'll find this stronger sense of self-resolve and self-respect when you go through a solid food vacation and you are removing the toxicity that interferes from you even listening to yourself, and listening to your own intuition. Because we all have a guidance system that toxicity will interfere you from being able to listen to it. So this is my kind of my comprehensive way of looking at how to wrap up a juice cleanse. How do you know it's time? And you'll know. And if you use the things I outlined in this video, you'll be able to end very confident with yourself, and that's going to be key, because you're doing something that you should be very proud of, because the act of you doing this is you raising your vibration. You are raising the vibe. And when you start to raise your vibe, you're going to start to raise the consciousness of your own self-expression. And when you start raising consciousness, it's connected to everything, right? Consciousness is intertwined with all of it. There's no separation. So you start raising your consciousness, you know what you're doing? I can say thank you, because you're helping to raise mine. You're helping to raise your neighbors. You're helping to raise your families. You're helping to raise the state of consciousness of the world. We're a bunch of little drops in an ocean, and what one drop does affects the whole ocean. So I'm excited for you to be able to raise your consciousness, because selfishly, I'm going to benefit from that. And so I'm on the same path though. So it's a back and forth. I got you as well. I got you. I'm going to work to make sure that I continue to raise my consciousness, so that your consciousness, which is no different than mine, is also being raised. It's just from a different perspective. So anything that I can do for you, if you want to drop your comments below, let me know, if you've been through a solid food vacation, especially, I'm really curious to know Like, how did you know? Or did you end too early? I also want to know that. Did you end too early and now you're kicking yourself? Like, what was that like? That can give people motivation too, right? Other people who are reading this and reading the comments to look at it and go like, oh, dang, I don't want to, I don't want to do, I don't want to, you learn from that other person's mistakes. So they say, ooh, I'll avoid that pitfall now. And that's going to be huge in your learning journey. So we can learn so much from each other, guys. We can learn so much. I will share, gosh, as much as I possibly can with you, because we are at a time in the world where we have to raise each other up, and we have to also take 100% responsibility for ourselves. We've always had to do that, but now is a time that is more potent than ever, because the decisions that you make today will impact your life for moving forward. But we're at a tipping point of humanity with our consciousness, and we need more people that are becoming more enlightened, who are being able to see the interconnectedness between everything. And going on a solid food vacation and removing the impurities in your body helps you to be that clearer channel and that clearer vessel to be able to raise the vibe of the planet. And so I'm 100% on board with all of that. So I love you guys, and anything I can do for you, let me know.